This is, of course, is the virtual preliminary budget hearing on Monday, April 19th, 2021. And it's obviously take on a different tone or whatever compared to what we normally do, but we are going to start as we always do with a Beth Heller, our first selectman, has some remarks, and so does Tony Genovese. So, Beth, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Matt. Everyone can hear me, correct?
Ask people to mute, okay?
Could everyone who's not speaking please mute themselves? Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Town of Woodbridge's virtual preliminary budget hearing. Before I begin, I must take a moment to thank all the town employees for being so helpful and flexible this past year as we have navigated through the pandemic. Our town staff have worked so very hard to keep each other and our residents safe while finding clever ways to serve the public from a distance. This evening, we are together virtually to take part in one of the time-honored traditions that reminds us of our community's New England founding and our rich history. At tonight's meeting, we take the first of two steps in the process of approving our town budget for the new fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2021. Our annual town budget reflects our shared values and is always balanced for our commitments to provide excellent education for our children and also show our respect to taxpayers by carefully budgeting and spending responsibly on essential town services. Tonight, I will review what we have accomplished as we head toward the close of fiscal year on June 30th. We are seeing new residents moving to town, many due to the pandemic. The Ad Hoc Community Council has begun holding virtual welcome coffee events to help orient new residents and answer their questions. I thank them for helping ease new residents through this transition, which is made more difficult by the pandemic. Woodbridge, like the rest of our country, has felt the impacts of the Black Lives Matter movement, and several students organized a rally and a peaceful march last summer. That event inspired me to create the Ad Hoc Diversity and Inclusion Committee. This volunteer group of residents is exploring ways to enhance diversity and inclusion in our town life and ways to enhance diversity to ensure an ongoing, committed focus on racial, ethnic, and religious issues. Both of these volunteer groups are helping to make Woodbridge a more welcoming community. Over the past several years, we have consolidated staff positions and reduced programs. To give this additional perspective, the town portion of the 2021 adopted budget was 0.12% lower than the 2016 adopted budget. Each year, as we convene the budget process, it is clear to me that we need to grow and diversify our grand list. In order to continue to maintain our priorities, we must focus on growing revenue. In the past year, I have created the 2020 Task Force, whose membership includes Woodbridge residents who are business and town leaders. They have been charged with seeking ways to create a healthier, robust grand list by 2030. I look forward to their updates and future recommendations. Meanwhile, we continue to focus on economic development. In February, the Economic Development Commission ran a clever program encouraging people to show some love for the local businesses and offered $25 Woodbridge Bucks vouchers to people who participated. Please continue to love your local businesses and shop, dine, and try Woodbridge. We place a high value on public education for our town's children, both at the Beecher Road School for grades pre-K through 6 and in the Amity School District 5, grades 7 through 12. Our budget continues to fund the resources that are necessary to ensure the quality of our school programs and support all the efforts of the teachers and staff members at Beecher Road School. At the Amity Regional Middle School and the high school, the town works closely with the district to also ensure that all necessary resources are provided for the outstanding educational opportunities we want for our students. Additionally, the town and the Beecher administration also continue to collaborate, consolidate services, and find ways to share costs. We continue looking carefully at additional ways to save taxpayer dollars while maintaining excellent, locally controlled educational services to all Woodbridge children. Currently, the Board of Selectmen is exploring how to accomplish several major goals in our town center campus beautification plan, specifically finally finishing renovations at the old firehouse, which has been used only for storage since a fire in 2006. We are working toward converting it into a beautiful, multi-purpose community center, completing renovations at the senior center and refurbishing the D and K wing and library media center roofs at Beecher Road School. Other projects in the beautification plan include creating a sidewalk, connecting the high school with the library, adding additional outdoor seating, and further signage throughout our town. The soon-to-come bike route, which is totally paid for by a campaign of private donations matched by a grant, is also part of this vision. Resident input from a now closed survey on the town website about the Grove will also be used to apply for a grant, seeking additional seating options and outdoor game tables, such as chess and checkers. During this horrible pandemic, I have seen friends and neighbors who have shown compassion and empathy, and those who have offered a helping hand to others during this extraordinary once-in-a-100-year challenge to our lives. We were able to host 4 free COVID testing events in Woodbridge this past year and 1 vaccination clinic for our most vulnerable seniors. The Human Services Department has helped hundreds of residents get a vaccine appointment, many of those through our partner, the Quinnipiac Valley Health District. They were even able to provide transportation for seniors who are not able to drive. This dedication, helping our residents navigate this stressful, complicated, and frequently changing system, has just been nothing short of amazing, and I thank them all. Similarly, our registrars of voters and town clerks were able to safely hold primaries and a presidential election and seamlessly deal with the massive increase in the number of absentee ballots as a result of the pandemic. This has been and continues to be a year of unusual challenges. Town staff have gotten creative to find ways to serve citizens, and our residents have been flexible and understanding about our public health requirements. The library is open now for limited hours, and yet residents who prefer less interactions may still continue to use the park and pickup service. Our recreation department has offered both virtual and outdoor programming and has begun to pivot to provide some services through appointments to limit the number of people in close proximity to one another. Our Human Services Department has also kept our seniors engaged and safe through this long and lonely, isolating time. Every day, I am reminded that one of the best things about our town is that we have been and remain stronger together. As I have said many times, I believe that the best ideas are born from a diversity of input from all constituencies. Town government, at its best, is more collaborative than partisan. And I know that we are all sincere in our desire to make Woodbridge the best possible version of itself. Even apart, we are together, and I want to express my gratitude to all the residents of Woodbridge who have taken the time to reach out to me by phone, text, or email. It is most important to hear from everyone. I have and will continue to listen to your opinions and suggestions, and also help you to get answers to your questions. By working together, we can solve problems and enhance the quality of life in our town. As your first selectman, it is my honor and it is my privilege to serve this community. We are indeed a wonderful and very busy town, and I thank you all. Before I turn our meeting over to Tony Genovese, our Town Administrative Officer and Director of Finance, I will proudly note that Tony and the Board of Finance's work on behalf of Woodbridge has once again resulted in accolades, both the Budget Award and the Audit Award from the Government Finance Officers Association. And most importantly, once again, Woodbridge has earned a AAA rating from Moody's. This is the best rating a town of our size can attain, and this keeps our borrowing costs low. Tony will now step us through the budget details. Thank you again.
Thank you, Beth. The budget process contains 4 main priorities that we follow each year when we build the budget for the town. One is controlling taxes, which is carefully balancing our wants versus needs and pursuing grant opportunities. 2 is to maximize efficiency and effectiveness. And as Beth indicated, we've had position reductions over the past 4 or 5 years have allowed us to maintain a lean operation. Providing services, we continue to provide the same high quality services that Woodbridge residents have grown to expect from us. And we've done that through being more efficient, looking for opportunities to consolidate and share services, including some sharing of services with the Woodbridge Board of Education and in the finance function and in some purchasing. And we continue to explore that. And finally, fiscal stewardship, which is designed to provide transparent disclosure of information, which allows residents to make informed decisions about their government. So that's sort of the main sort of focus of the award programs, is to provide information. Just as an example of efficiency that the town has done over the past few years, between 2018 and 2021, the town has eliminated 8 full-time positions and made 2 full-time positions part-time. So the 8 positions include 2 police officers, police lieutenant, payroll clerk, grants coordinator, parks director, senior clerk, and a mechanic. So this gives you an idea of the types of positions that were eliminated in the budget while maintaining services. In addition, 2 positions, the building official and the circulation assistant, were made into part-time positions, thus saving on benefits while providing the same excellent service. So since 2016, as Beth indicated, the expenses for the town portion of the budget 2021 were 0.12% lower than the town expenses in 2016. I actually looked back further, and it's actually 2013. The expenses in 2021 are actually lower than 2013. So you can see the town has done an excellent job of maintaining the services and becoming more efficient. And all of our department heads are to thank for that. And so I'd like to express my appreciation for that. Some major budget issues that we've had in 21-22. The first and probably the biggest is impact of COVID-19. In the 21 budget, the town reduced the budget by $471,000. That's a net number, which means that the expenses for that year were reduced by $600,000, but there were revenue reductions as well. Well, the Board of Finance and Selectmen restored $364,000 back to the budget this year for expenditures related to programs that will begin again in the 22 year that were eliminated in 21. So that was one of the expenditure increases that we've had this year. If you look at the over the 2-year period, because there's fluctuation in 21 and then in 22, expenditure increases 2.5% over the 2-year period. So this just gives you an idea of the expenditures. Also, we've had a decline in non-tax revenues this year. Our interest income is down almost 38% due to low rates and flat state grant revenue, and also a reduction of $60,000 in the amity surplus funds. We continue to have minimal grand list growth with a less than 1% grand list growth. And finally, with some good news, our debt service dropped close to 20%, and that's because the town paid off a bond issued in 2000, which was for the fuel remediation spill and the purchase of the elderly preserve. So that was sort of the main reason why our debt service went down. The budget process begins in September, where the budget requests are prepared by departments and commissions. It's very much a collaborative process that involves staff members, commission members, board members, and the budgets are submitted to finance and are reviewed through October through December. And then in December and January, the boards of selectmen and finance meet to review the budget requests by each department, and have additional meetings in February to March until we have our April meeting this evening, where it's a hearing on the budget. The budget is then implemented in 21-22 after a vote at the annual town meeting where budget approval occurs. Preliminary revenues for our 22 budget year, as you can see by this graph, are almost entirely made up of property taxes. We do have some department charges and intergovernmental revenue, less than 2% each, but a majority of our taxes are property taxes, of which a majority of the property taxes are residential. So you can see that the town is heavily reliant on property tax and residential property tax, which is one reason why the 2030 task force was created to try to diversify our grand list. There are 7 main categories for revenue, and just some highlights. The other revenues are down 5.46% due to the reduction of the $60,000 in the Amity surplus funds. Just a note on that: this budget still creates has a $600,000 surplus from Amity, which is a highly volatile source of revenue because it's so dependent on Amity's operations. So we could have $600,000 one year and zero the next. So that's something that we keep an eye on each year. In terms of the preliminary budget expenditures, the town is basically 30% of our budget goes towards the Woodbridge Board of Education, 32% towards the Amity Board of Education, and 38% for town government. I did look back on in 16-17 just to see what the trending was. In 2017, the town budget was 41%, so the town government has dropped 3% in the budget, and Amity has gone up. It was at 30% back in 16-17. So as you can see, there's some shifting towards education and away from town government. In terms of our overall expenditures, a few highlights. There were 3 departments that were impacted by COVID. You can see those on the bottom left of the screen. That's the town library, human services, and recreation. So those 3 departments make up the lion's share of the restored funds for the programming that was eliminated in fiscal year 21. The debt service is on the far right, which is a reduction of close to 20%. And the other note I wanted to make was capital expenditures are up about 40%, and that's mainly due to capital equipment purchases in public works and in police. The mill rate is increases from 41.53 to 42.64, and that's an increase of 2.67% or 1.11 mils. Finally, I just wanted to end it with our debt service. As you can see, our debt service is currently about $3.7 million. That includes our share of the Amity debt, which is called overlapping debt. And it goes up to slightly under $4 million, but then continues to reduce to a $2.5 million debt towards 2030. Just I wanted to point out that there is some direct debt under consideration in there, which is just an estimate of possible future debt that we may encounter. And 10% of expenditures is typically where most rating agencies and outside agencies like to see debt service below 10% of your expenditures. As you can see, our debt is well below that amount. So our debt service is in good shape. So I just wanted to point that out. That's it.
Hey, Tony and Beth, thank you very much. I think we can all agree that based on what we just heard from Beth and Tony, that the town has operated frugally, considering all things. Just a couple of remarks. Obviously, last year when we went through this process, which would be the year we're currently operating under, there were a lot of blind areas. We had no idea. We all were trying to come up with the best solutions or the best ways of funding this budget, not knowing what on earth was going to happen in the next year with this COVID. And I think you have to admit the town has run smoothly. I haven't heard any complaints about things. I mean, again, it was done with the best intentions and with the best estimates we could come up with. And again, I think the town ran well. And again, we had a 1.25% reduction, Tony. Is that right? Something like that.
That's right. Last year
right.
For the current budget, right?
Right. Now, the budget we're considering tonight, of course, again, I think Tony has done a great job of talking to the various departments and trying to come up with numbers that will allow them to start beginning to restore programs, et cetera. If you look at the 2 years combined, again, this year is a tax increase of 2.67%. But if you combine the two, it's a little over 1% a year for 2 years, which is remarkable because, again, you've heard me say it again, and I'm going to say it again, and that is we don't have any significant grant list growth. The way you get to do more things and provide more services, et cetera, is when you have more revenue, and we don't, quite frankly. We have very, very, very minimal grant list growth, probably 1% or less. And so whatever we do end up with in the way of increased revenues, we distribute it as best we can. It's a difficult situation, and if you look around and you see what's going on in town, there's not a whole lot of opportunities for this grant list to grow. We'll see. I mean, there's no major properties that can be developed into housing or whatever. Hopefully, sometime in the future, we will be able to do something like that. But it's a key to trying to keep things going. But I think, again, looking at what Tony said, going back to 2013's, I mean, our government spending, the portion of the spending for government is down. That's amazing when you consider salary increases and utility increases, et cetera. It's remarkable that we're able to do that. And again, education continues to take the largest part of our budget, and I think people want that. So that's basically where we're at. When Tony and I first sat down, I said, "Gee, I'd love to keep this at 1% or so." And it became apparent in meetings with the Board of Finance, discussions with Board of Selectmen, and whatever that would have been very, very, very painful to chop this thing down to, let's say, a 1% tax increase. We would have really had to severely limit services in some areas. And again, I don't know about the rest of you who talk to the people around town. I never hear from anybody asking to cut services. So at least nobody I talk to. So I think we provide a great level of service, quality services. I think you look at every department, and I think it's a tribute to the town. We really, really do have great people working for the town, and the services are excellent. So with that, I'd like to just finally thank all the departments. I think everybody over the past 2 years, over the year we're currently in and next year, they've really, really chipped in and come up with ways to help Tony and Beth and all of us to keep the town functioning the way it has. And we owe them for always keeping Woodbridge's best interests at the top of the list. The normal situation with the budget is that we go line by line, and I just don't think that's conducive in this. And hopefully, this is the last year. Definitely, next year we'll have a regular budget hearing where we can go line by line. So what I'd like to say is hopefully everybody got this gray document in the mail, and if you look at the spending report where it shows a 2.96% increase. I don't know if anybody's out there. After I get through, maybe Betsy can let us know. I guess they have to raise their hand, and Betsy will unmute them. But at this point, yes.
I did get one question emailed.
Okay.
Which I'll read, and I read the response to the question.
Okay, go ahead. Okay.
So we received a series of questions by one resident, which I'd like to read. The first was, why are employee benefits up 7.27%? And so there are four main reasons why. First is there are costs related to restoring programs due to COVID-19, which Matt was just mentioning. And so that's one main reason. Retirement costs were up 8% due to an escalation in the salary match that the state provides. We're part of a state retirement plan for municipalities, and so we don't have control over the increase in the salary match. The healthcare budget is up about 7.6% due to higher claims primarily. And finally, the town has a heart hypertension claim to pay in FY22. The second question was, what is an average health insurance cost for active employee? And the average health insurance cost for active employee is $23,704. What is the increase versus the prior year actual? The health insurance increase versus prior year actual is 14.82%. What is the average healthcare insurance cost per retiree? Average cost per retiree is $12,731. What is the increase for prior year actual for retirees? The under 65 retirees, 14.82%, and the over 65 retirees, 1.9%. And finally, why is investment income down 37.5%? Because the town is significantly restricted in what we can invest our governmental funds in. So we have to invest in primarily government securities and other very safe investments, which is resulting in a very low return. Currently, our rates are below 0.5%. So that's the main reason. So that was those were the series of questions that I received.
Okay, thank you, Tony. So Betsy, at this point, I guess you know who's out there. If there anybody's out there who wants to ask a question or whatever, is there anybody?
Currently, there's not. So if you're in the audience and you have a question or comment, there should be an icon on your phone or computer screen showing a hand. If you click that, that's akin to raising your hand, and I'll be able to identify you and unmute you so you could make your comment or ask your question. Joyce Shavers has a question. Go ahead, I've unmuted you.
Hi, it's not so much a question as I just wanted to share a few observations. As a taxpayer, just taking a look at the town budget, you can't help but notice that the primary drivers are the school budgets. And so for a taxpayer to get comfortable with the town budget, it's important to get comfortable with what's happening with the school budget. As the vice chair, the finance chair of the Woodbridge Board of Ed, I can speak to Woodbridge's budget. And I think that taxpayers should feel comfortable with the budget process that we went through and the outcome for 4 reasons. And just to make it really easy to remember, I would say, and think of the 4 C's, being collaboration, communication, comprehensiveness, and creativity. The first 2 C's, collaboration and communication, they tend to go hand in hand, and they really speak to the process that we tried to follow under the leadership of our new superintendent, Dr. Jonathan Budd. We, in earnest, tried to reach out frequently to town leaders in an effort to be as transparent as possible and as inclusive as possible, really trying to seek input, with the thought being that we wanted to truly become great partners with the town. The third C, comprehensiveness, really has to do with the thoroughness of Dr. Budd and his team and their efforts to look for efficiencies across the spectrum, from the very small to the very big. From literally, you could see Dr. Budd from time to time counting steps between copiers and printers to make sure that we had the right number in the building, to capitalizing on attrition when it happens, to staff more efficiently, and even with better outcomes, as well as on a big picture level, working with the town and other districts toward a more collaborative and streamlined approach to getting things done. And then finally, we have C, the final C, for creativity, because the truth is you can only cut so much before you're beginning to cut into the meat and bones, which for us means really, reduction of staffing and programming, which would be very painful. And so, so I think that there's so many examples that I could provide in showing how innovative we've tried to be in the managing of the operations of the district as well as in delivering high quality education. But I'll just name a few just to kind of give people a flavor. And this is just to be clear, without spending more money and achieving better outcomes. So, we've been able to introduce cool technology like Flipgrid, which is really engaging for students. We've been able to switch to an online recruiting and management system with great success. And we're incorporating more outdoors into the curriculum. The list goes on and on, but people, I think, can get a sense of how we are trying to do much more with less. And so the question for taxpayers is, what's the value proposition? Especially if you don't have school-age children at home, which is more likely the case than not. And so I think we have to think about why people want to live here in Woodbridge. Young families want to move here to Woodbridge because of Beecher Road School and because of the top-notch education that we can offer. And it's these young families that make this community a vibrant community. And so in supporting a responsible school budget that does satisfy the 4 C's, taxpayers are investing in the next generation, and they're investing really in the future of our town. Thanks.
Thank you. That's good remarks. Anybody else, Betsy?
I don't see anyone at this time.
Okay, we'll keep it open, but in the meantime, I don't know, is any other board members, Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance members have anything they'd like to say? Okay. Let's just keep it open. You can see what you can see. You can see who's out there, Betsy, if there's people out there. Yeah.
Not many, but
Okay.
there are. So again, if you'd like to make a comment or you have a question, there's a hand icon you can click on and I will then be able to identify you and unmute you. There's also a chat feature. If you're unable to use the hand or you don't have a microphone, you could type in a question that I could then read aloud for someone to answer.
Matt, has there been any comments or any feedback as relates to the budget at the meeting that we may have missed if we haven't seen the recordings?
No, not that I could think of. No. Matter of fact, Tony asked me if I had heard from anybody. I haven't. Nobody's emailed me or called me or anything. I haven't. Even when I go to church, I haven't heard anything at church either. So that's always a good sign. No, honestly, I think I'm hoping anyway that people looked at this budget and realized that it's considering all that we've had to put back into this budget, that it's really a responsible budget. That's what I'm hoping for anyway. We certainly believe that. So, anything, Betsy?
There is a resident who messaged me asking how to ask a question, so I'm assuming he may have a question that he has not asked yet.
Okay.
It's more a comment of a question. He said he's disappointed in the increasing of employee benefits.
Okay. I could say that in the recent years, we've begun to, and Tony, you might want to comment on this, retirees no longer get benefits for life or whatever. Why don't you just go through that, Tom?
So since 2000 approximately 2017, the town eliminated health care for retirees. So as individuals retire and new hires are made, we no longer offer that. So I would say probably 20% of our workforce no longer gets retiree health benefits, maybe a little more.
So that will certainly have an impact on that number.
And it increases, correct, and then increases each year. And
That's terrible.
Okay.
Where's the union?
Tony, I think helping to explain to people that yes, we are restoring budgets for 3 main departments, but it also involves bringing back positions that were not filled in 2020. And so that is a main source of the increase in benefits.
that's,
So it's not
definitely part of it, yes.
right. So it's not just negotiation of, higher rates. It's the fact that we have more employees that are actually using the benefits.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct.
There's another question about country club development and the status of what's going on over there.
Who would like to handle that one?
I'll take that one.
Beth, you want to talk about that?
Yes, you can hear me, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. At this point, over the past year due to COVID, we did not work on that as a priority. However, now that COVID seems to be lessening, we will be looking into hiring a consultant to look at options for the property.
Okay.
It's up to you.
Anything else, Betsy?
That seems to be it for the moment.
Okay, let's wait 2 more minutes in case somebody has a question.
Yeah, she looks so good. She doesn't. I know. Okay, I'm just done.
Well, there's a follow-up question about the country club asking if the cost of the consultant is in the budget.
Fine, who cares? I believe the cost, Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, it is in this year's budget, correct?
That's correct. There is some funding in next year's budget.
Nothing else? Okay, I think obviously if anybody does have a question, Tony's always available, I'm always available, and you can certainly send the question to Karen Crosby and she can forward it to us and we'll get back to you. So with that, I thank you all for attending and I look forward to next year, same time, same place, Center Gym. So have a good evening. And now the Board of Finance, those are the Board of Finance, you have to exit this meeting and then log into the Board of Finance meeting. So it's a 2-step process. We'll see you there in a few minutes. Board of Finance meeting is coming up next.
Cocktails with a dash of despair, dancing to this song, but our feet are flat. Oh, when it's right, it's tight, and I like it like that. Beamish is blowing almost all the time, walking along the shaky tightrope line. Oysters, banana peel, and dirty rats. Oh, when it's right, it's tight, and I like it like that. With your umbrella by your side, the sandbags to quell the rising tide. There are fairies and demons by your side. You cannot believe your eyes. No, back at the day, coffee. feet grind.